Do not move to Rochester, New York unless you can handle these 5 things. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. My name's Anthony. I'm with the American Home Team here in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every Tuesday and Thursday that I release a new video. That being said, I am a licensed real estate agent here in the Finger Lakes and Rochester regions of upstate New York. What that means is, as much as I love making these videos for you on everything eating, sleeping, playing, living, breathing in the Finger Lakes and Rochester regions, I would love even more to help you with those real estate needs. So that number that's popping up on the screen below, I am the guy that answers those texts, emails, and phone calls for you. So be sure to reach out. We absolutely love helping people just like you relocating to our area of upstate and western New York. So be sure to reach out. We would love to help you. That being said, today I'm talking about do not move to Rochester, New York without understanding these 5 things, or unless you can deal with these 5 things. Let's get into it. All right, so moving right along into it, of course, number 1, we're going to be talking about the weather. Here in upstate New York, the Finger Lakes and the Rochester regions, the weather is not great. It's not very good at all. In fact, last week, so right now, as the recording of this video, we're in mid-April, so April 19th we are. Last week we had 5 straight days of 85 and sunny. Sounds amazing, right? Until we get to today, and I'm standing here stuttering and chattering because it's 45 degrees and it's windy and it's overcast and not very good, and we have another 5 to 8 days of this type of weather here in mid-April. I feel like last week summer was here, and now it's like we're going back to fall and winter time almost. So speaking of wintertime, here in upstate New York, winters are harsh. We have a long, gloomy winter, a lot of snowfall, especially as you get up further into Rochester. In the Finger Lakes, there's certain areas that get heavy snow if you're up in the hills, things like that. But it is just gloomy. We have some of the least amount of direct sunlight in the United States up here in the Rochester and Finger Lakes region. And really, it's like the Northeast, but Rochester and Finger Lakes just seems to be especially bad. If you enjoy your vitamin D, do not come to Rochester. Most of us are deficient in vitamin D, and if you get a blood test, it will show. So it's super important to supplement with things like that, right? If you care about your health, or you care about your mood, and a lot of these other things that vitamin D will impact. So if weather is super important to you, don't come up to Rochester, New York. It's not very good. Long, depressing winters, seasonal depression can be a real thing if you're not paying attention to it. So that being said, number 1, we have to talk about the weather because it's important to a lot of people when they're making a decision to move. If you're coming and it's a forced move for a job or whatever, maybe it doesn't matter that much. But if you're choosing to move somewhere, Rochester should not be the place to come if you're looking for good weather, because we don't have it here. All right, moving on to number 2, we're going to keep this topic a little bit light because I don't know actual statistics on this, and I don't necessarily care to get into the weeds of it, but I know that it's important to a lot of people who are moving here and considering moving to Rochester, and that is the crime. Now, according to niche.com, I do know that the website states that it is one of the worst cities per capita for crime. Now, that being said, some anecdotal, facts is I do have friends, close friends, who live in Rochester City, and they keep their car doors unlocked with nothing in their cars because they've had their windows smashed a few times for carjackings. And so when that is just a better option to keep your car unlocked so that at least your car windows don't get broken, things can get a little bit scary. Now, that being said, it's a city. These type of things happen. There's a lot of people crammed into a smaller space. So, of course, crime, whether it's violent or whether it's just, a car theft or something like that, or a petty larceny, these things happen. in any city. It's not just Rochester. So I do know that, when you're in the city, just like any other city, you're going to hear sirens. That doesn't mean that it's always police officers chasing bad guys. It's not always that. It could be, ambulance because someone had a heart attack or something like that. But you really never know. And it seems like these crimes aren't just in certain areas of the city. It's kind of spread throughout. So what I also know is that we're getting a lot of calls from people who live in the city and they're trying to move out of the city because they just want to get to an area where maybe they feel safer to have their family or just themselves because, maybe the city is getting a little bit worse. So I don't know specific statistics on this. I do know, according to niche.com and some of these other websites, that it says that Rochester is per capita on the bad side as far as crime goes, but I can't confirm or deny that. I just know that we're getting calls from people who don't necessarily want to live inner city and they'd rather the suburbs, and this is not me trying to steer you in any sort of way. It's just the fact of the matter, and you can do the research yourself. So if you can handle that, though, if you enjoy the city living, then, maybe point number 2 isn't going to steer you away. All right, so point number 3 I want to tread lightly on as well, because we're talking about politics. And politics is something in the United States right now that is very just controversial. And living in and around Rochester, it's no less controversial. You got the suburbs of Rochester that are mainly more conservative. But then you have Rochester, which is very liberal. And so when you look at that, like how those mesh together, they kind of don't. And I feel like when you're in Rochester, the only thing that people agree on is to not agree on anything, as far as it goes with politics. And a lot of the policies come from Albany or New York City. And so, when you get that, New York State is a liberal state. Now, that being said, a majority of New York is actually red, but the cities are all blue, and they're very blue. And so if you are somebody who can't handle that blue or the liberal kind of policies, or just kind of, the different attitudes that are around certain things, then definitely do not go to Rochester. I would not recommend it. But if you're kind of like us, where it's live and let live, just kind of do your own thing as long as it doesn't affect you and your family, then you're in the clear. You're good to go in the Rochester area, and you're good to move there. Most things aren't going to bother you. It's not really going to impact you. But there is enough there that if you're really paying attention to it, it can kind of get out of hand. It can kind of make you feel like you're in the wrong area. So just be cognizant of that. If you are more conservative, then Rochester proper might not be the area for you. All right, moving right along, point number 4, let's talk about real estate. Now, real estate, I love it. Obviously, it's my profession. But in the Rochester and surrounding areas, and even the Finger Lakes, real estate right now is super competitive. We have this huge supply and demand kind of debacle where there's so much demand and not nearly enough supply. Everybody likes where they're living so much that they want to hold on to their house. Not only do they like where they're living, but they're holding on to super low interest rates. So they don't want to refi. They don't want to move because then they're going to be stuck at a 6 or 7% interest rate. Whereas now they're holding on to 2.5% or 3%, super low. So what that does is that creates a situation where you as a buyer, if you're coming in and we have buyers right now who are extremely, extremely qualified. We're talking, $250,000 cash in the bank and offering all of that and no inspections, things like that, and they're still losing to maybe 2 other offers just because we're kind of in a position now where some buyers are extremely desperate to get into a house. They're willing to offer their firstborn child and their lastborn child and a kidney. So, it just creates a situation where you're gonna have to be searching for houses for a little while. Now, does that mean it can't be done? No, absolutely not. You can get the first house you want, but it's just challenging. It's really hard. You will have to make some compromise probably here and there. That doesn't mean huge things, right? That doesn't mean giving up square footage. That doesn't mean giving up an extra bedroom or whatever you want, but you might have to put in a little bit more money. You might have to make your offer just that much more competitive, and it's just challenging. The supply and demand here is so out of whack that if you're looking to be able to get in and find a house like today, it's probably not going to happen. If you're more on the patient side and you understand kind of that the market is this way and you're moving here regardless of how long it takes, then we can probably find you something in a month, maybe, or maybe less than a month. It depends on kind of where your price point is at and where your offer is. If you're competitive, then great, it'll be less time. But if you're in a position where maybe you don't have so much cash, maybe you need some other contingencies or something like that, then it might take a month, might take 2 months, something like that. So just understand that real estate is super competitive out here. There's not much on the market, and there's a lot of buyers who are more or less desperate for homes. So they're willing to throw in, like I said, their firstborn child. And it's just the fact of the matter. So if you can't deal with that, then don't come here. If you're okay with that, if you're okay with the competition and kind of meritocracy type lifestyle, then let's do it. Let's get you over here, and maybe this is the place for you. All right, last but not least, number 5, we're going to be talking about how Rochester is very slow pace compared to a majority of the other cities in the United States. Most cities that you go to in the United States are going to be very upbeat. They're going to be very fast and business like you're going to point A to point B as if you're running a sprint. And Rochester is not that way. Rochester is very slow paced. It's very just kind of take it easy. I almost want to say on aloha time, right? I was stationed out in Hawaii, and everything island life is very slow, and I enjoyed that, which is part of my appeal to Rochester. Is it's not quite like island time, but it is much slower than a majority of cities. And I've been to New York City a couple times. New York City, everyone's sprinting from A to B, right? They're all going to work, they're running. It's hustle and bustle all day, every day. And I'm sure you've experienced that in whatever city you're coming from. Rochester is not that way. You don't see anybody running down the street unless they're going for a jog. You're seeing them, they're walking casually to work, or they're driving casually to work. They're not driving like assholes most of the time, unless just they're an asshole driving. But most of the time, it's not to get to work that they're speeding uncontrollably. You know what I mean? So Rochester is very slow paced. It's just the fact of the matter. And so if you're somebody that likes that fast-paced city life, like New York City or Miami or LA or Chicago or wherever, then Rochester might not be the city for you. It just is a lot slower than a majority of the cities throughout the United States. So keep that in mind when you're considering moving here. But those are the 5 things that if you can deal with them, then you should move to Rochester, New York and the surrounding areas. If you can't deal with any particular point, see if you can make a compromise. We still live here. It's still amazing for us and our families. We still choose to live here despite some of the bad things, just like anywhere else that you go. So that being said, if you're okay with these things, which a lot of people are, then come over here. We will love to help you. And so that being said, feel free to reach out to the information on the bottom of the screen. I am the guy that answers those texts, calls, and emails. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every Tuesday and Thursday that I release a new video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I apologize for my chattering. It's cold out here. We had 85 degrees last week, and now we're in 40-degree weather and windy and just cold. So I apologize. But hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.